Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for coming back in to join me again. And we're here to talk about the astrology, we're here to talk about movements in the sky. And by now, if you've been watching my previous videos for July, you'd be understanding that we're in the middle of a process of releasing and massive personal growth. The lovely thing about releasing is just that word, release. So hopefully we've been working on identifying and being comfortable with letting go some of those things we need to let go. And we're starting to feel some of that release. So we should be feeling a little bit lighter and a little bit easier. If you're still in the middle of turbulence and feeling heavy, remember the mantra from the tarot from the last time, I accept is the mantra. You just need to accept and acknowledge whatever emotion you're currently feeling, whether it's heavy, whether it's light, whether it's sad, whether it's pleased, whether it's even confused. Just acknowledge, spend a little time with that, and you'll find that it'll start to come more easily. One of the things I'm going to ask you to do is please don't try to force too much too soon. You can only do things when you are ready. And you can only release things when they are ready to be released, or likewise when you are ready to release them. Okay, so let's just get on with the astrology and have a little look. What we've got happening on the 16th, and just as soon as I start speaking about some things, my throat starts to tighten up. And obviously that's something I need to be having a think about. But it is also in this time, remember, we've got a lot of planets that are all together in Leo, which is about strength and personal empowerment and speaking your truth. And this is also a time of speaking your truth. And this is one of the nice things about being vulnerable and getting comfortable with vulnerability is your capacity to speak your truth. I'm not comfortable with that. That makes me feel uneasy. All of these things are really important things to get used to saying. So that's another part of the releasing, is acknowledging and accepting that there are elements in our life that we're not comfortable with. Now, the 16th full moon lunar eclipse also happening in Cancer. This is kind of nice because Cancer is a very loving, caring sign. So that's taking the edge of what could be quite difficult for some of us. But it's continuing the theme. And what we're talking about here with this full moon, and remember full moons are beautiful because they light up areas that we're not seeing clearly, or something that might have been hidden from us, or alternatively something we're choosing not to see, because that's the other aspect of it. And now that we've got the lunar eclipse, it's just adding that extra oomph to this momentum. And it's asking us to really get comfortable with ourselves and who we are, and to start acknowledging that and acknowledging who we are now. Because remember, we don't all stand still. We may choose to stand still, but if you're watching this now, it's because you're choosing not to stand still. You're choosing to grow and to spiritually develop. And most importantly, you're recognizing that you want to have the best life you can possibly have. And to do that, you have to be really comfortable with who you are and really comfortable with what you want in your life. And what you want in your life is really what we're talking about here with this full moon. So this is going to highlight for us where we are lacking, or what we want in our relationships. And it's in our relationship to self, our relationship to work, our relationship to organizations and groups that we might be a part of, and it's our relationship to our body and to our health. So this is what it's really starting to highlight for us. And this continues that theme of us getting really comfortable with, and we talked before about being comfortable with your vulnerabilities. And this is now leading us into being comfortable with being our authentic self. And what we need more of, or what we want more of, to enable us to be far more authentic about who we are. What's interesting about this, because it is all about relationships, is this is going to be a time when there's either going to be breaks. We'll break away and decide to end a relationship, and that can be a friendship, that can be work, that can be a professional partnership, can even be a highly personal amour relationship, or we're going to really cement and come closer in that bond. So this is an either or. So there's also been this theme of duality coming up, and this is really what's going to happen. It's going to be one or the other. We're either going to come a lot closer to the things that are important to us, or we're going to go, nope, enough of that, let's leave that behind. One of the things that I have noticed in my life, and also with the coaching of people that I've done, is often around this time we choose to leave friendships, and we choose to leave partners, and we choose to do that because we recognize that these are not healthy relationships, that we're feeling uneasy in them, and when we're constantly checking ourselves and we're not being our true authentic self within this particular partnership. Some of the reasons that we actually stay in partnerships is because we're not comfortable with vulnerability, and there's an enormous amount of pressure on us at the moment in society to be in relationships, and that doesn't necessarily work for all of us all of the time. So just be aware that that might be what's starting to happen. You might end up moving away from certain friends or certain groups of friends. You might end certain relationships. So that's also on the agenda. And remember that an eclipse is really good for at least another 6 months. So this is going to take us through to the next eclipse season in December. Just halting while the car goes by. And then the other thing about all of this is that we'll have another chance to look at it in December if we don't necessarily complete the process now. All right. So at the beginning, there's a lot of tumble, there's a lot of emotional churn. This is when the energies are first moving. This is when it is the strongest. So really pay attention to things that pop up, that annoy us, that seem to be consistently being faced with us or repeating, because that's a big signal. Okay, I'm in a cycle of repeating all of this, and I'm not happy with how this is happening and how I'm feeling about this. That's a signal this has got to stop. Okay, so the other thing about this is this eclipse is on the Cancer Capricorn alignment. Now Cancer is all about I, self, very nurturing, very supporting, and Capricorn is all about careers and public lives. So you can see that we're also talking about having a look at how am I in my personal life, and am I being authentic to myself here, and then how am I in my professional public life, and am I being authentic to myself here. Now let's put something around that professional life. There's always some moments in your professional life when you need to adhere to certain social norms, and I'm not telling you to completely disrespect those at all. That's a part of the life we've chosen and the life we've shaped, and it's essential to do that to get the respect. But it's also quite important that when you're in that particular role, that you are still within the realms of acceptability, being true and authentic to yourself. And sometimes that means speaking up about things that other people are reluctant to speak up about. And this can be when you find that your tolerance for something within the relationship is not acceptable, or the other people that you are speaking with and dealing with either don't comprehend what you're saying, so you know you're not on the same page, or they have a totally different perspective to that, and you find, that's a no-go area for me. That's crossing a line that I'm not prepared to accept. So that's just another aspect for you to be considering. So we're really going to be highlighting the areas and asking, is the balance we're seeking between our private and our business attachments. And this is what this particular full moon could also be highlighting for us, that we need to get around that. So it's going to be things like conditional versus unconditional love. Conditional love is all about, I love you if you do this for me. Conditional, unconditional friendships, I can be a friend with you providing you do this for me. Okay. Dependent versus independent. Dependent is conditional love. Independence is unconditional love. So we allow, if we need it, space for our partner in that relationship and space for each other. So we're going to be having a look at that, and wherever there is imbalance in those relationships, it's going to be highlighted. And what I mean by highlighted, there'll probably be a point of tension. And you'll need to understand and explore what that point of tension is. That's normally how these things are highlighted. Or you'll start to see a pattern of behavior and you'll go, oh, this is always the outcome from this. And I'm not happy with that. And so that'll also be a moment for you to see where that imbalance is being highlighted. So what we need to do, if we see that, is we really need to bring that into focus for us so we can understand it. So we need to spend some time exploring it. And what we need to be able to find for ourselves before we have the discussion with anybody else is we need to be able to find and understand the emotions that we're going through and the feelings that we have, yeah? And then have to find the words that express the conflict and our responses to that. Now, there's something I just want you to bear in mind. Oh, see, here I am talking about coming up with words and being comfortable with that before you have the discussion. And I can't emphasize to you, if you're going to have a difficult conversation, don't be afraid to practice in the mirror the words you're going to say and say them out loud. Because once you do that, you start to create within yourself the confidence to use those words. And sometimes if we're in a sense of conflict and we're not comfortable with conflict, most of us are not comfortable with conflict, it's a good idea to have that practice run before you go in to have that discussion. Here's the thing you need to be prepared for. Not everybody is interested in change. Not everyone is interested in personal growth. Not everyone is interested in fairness and equity. And a lot of people will not be interested. And straight away, you will know if that's important to you and it's not important to someone else, then you need to think about how is that relationship going. Your job is not to change someone else's behavior. It might be to create the space or the opportunity, opportunity for that person to change their behavior. But your role is not to change that person's behavior. The only caveat to that is if they are your children, then your role is to change their behavior. But your partner, your colleagues, your professional partnerships, they are not your children. So you're on your path, you're wanting to move forward with something, and some people just will not be interested in changing their behavior. In fact, they could be quite rude to you about it. Deal with it. So this is another tension, and this is another point where you have to make a choice. Maybe you do deal with it and you just keep going on with something else, or maybe you decide, no, enough of that. Okay. So that's just something that's going to be happening that I want you all to be feeling about when we're coming into this lunar full moon eclipse. And I apologize for my voice, but I can really sense that that there's going to be some things, and it's probably also for me, because I'm experiencing this right along with you, where there's going to be some tough conversations to be had, and I need to be ready to have them. So, and some of these tough conversations might actually be for myself, and let's face it, the toughest people to have hard conversations with is often yourself. Yeah, we're the toughest people to change. Change yourself first, change others later. Change yourself first, change others later. Remember, the act of changing yourself will change the way you interact with other people around you, will change other people around you. So change yourself first. All right. So when we're looking at all of this, we're going to be having a think about where we are at the moment. What I suggest you do is have a look at your natal charts for Cancer and Capricorn and see where they are, and that will give you some further hints about where exactly in your own path you're going to see these things highlighted. And don't forget, within all of this, we're going to see flaws and vulnerabilities. Principally, it's going to be about us, but it's also going to be in other people. All right, I think I probably need to have a glass of water before I do the tarot. So if you want to stay in tune with me and you want to get a notification about when the next video is going to be released, you need to either join on the Facebook, Emerald Blue Phoenix, or if you're watching the video, just subscribe and hit the little bell, and that'll give you the notification of when my next video is going to be up. I'm just going to take a short break, and then I'm going to come back and do the tarot. Thank you once again for joining me. Lovely to be chatting with you, and I accept. Deep breath, gin and tonic, cup of tea. All right, see you later. Take care.